Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Brief. The remarks of Japan's right-wing Prime Minister Sanai Takashi have become increasingly outrageous. It is possible that Japan may intervene militarily in the Taiwan Strait. This week, Sanai Takashi's speech in the Diet has led outsiders to speculate that the Japanese government may be adjusting its long-standing adherence to the three non-nuclear principles. Her comments have sparked speculation that she is considering relaxing the ban on nuclear weapons entering Japanese territory. During a Diet Q&A session on Monday, November 10th, Sanai Takashi clearly stated that there is no way to guarantee that Japan's new national security strategy will continue to explicitly include the three non-nuclear principles of not possessing, not producing, and not introducing nuclear weapons. At a regular press conference on Friday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said that Beijing is seriously concerned about Tokyo's recent military and security developments. Japan has long portrayed itself as a peaceful nation and promoted the establishment of a world without nuclear weapons, but Sanai Takashi, the administration's stance on the non-nuclear principles is ambiguous and vague, hinting at the possibility of abandoning them. Lin Jian said that during World War II, Japanese militarism launched wars of aggression and committed serious crimes against humanity, bringing profound disasters to the region and the world. In recent years, Japan has made significant adjustments to its security policy, increased its defense budget year by year, relaxed restrictions on arms exports, and sought to develop offensive weapons. It is moving further and further down the wrong path of strengthening its military capabilities. He also specifically mentioned that last week, Sanai Takashi openly made provocative remarks regarding Taiwan, blatantly hinting at the possibility of military intervention in the Taiwan Strait. He emphasized that this series of actions by Japan inevitably raises strong doubts and concerns among its Asian neighbors and the international community. Lin Jian further questioned whether Japan has truly drawn a clear line from militarism and whether the Japanese government is genuinely committed to adhering to its defense and non-nuclear principles. Will Japan continue to uphold its commitment to peaceful development? This year marks the 80th anniversary of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War, as well as the 80th anniversary of Taiwan's recovery. Lin Jian urged Japan to deeply reflect on its history of aggression, to firmly pursue the path of peaceful development, to stop seeking excuses for expanding its military power, and to earn the trust of its Asian neighbors and the international community through concrete actions. Sanai Takashi's dangerous approach of knowingly crossing China's red lines is clearly playing with fire. On Friday, China issued a response that was tougher than anyone expected. In addition to the Vice Foreign Minister meeting with the Japanese ambassador to China, the Chinese ambassador to Japan also took the rare step of formally requesting a meeting with Japanese Vice Foreign Minister Funakoshi Takahiro, lodging a stern protest over Prime Minister Sanai Takashi's erroneous remarks and actions regarding China. Chinese ambassador to Japan Wu Jianhao criticized Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takashi for provocative remarks about Taiwan during a parliamentary debate. He said these comments violate common sense, cross China's red lines, pose military threats, and amount to warmongering. Takashi has not admitted mistakes, retracted her statements, or acted to reduce the negative impact. Wu called this a misjudgment of the situation and an overestimation of her abilities. Wu Jianhao pointed out that Taiwan is China's Taiwan, and China's eventual reunification is inevitable. Japanese leaders clamoring for military intervention in Taiwan Strait affairs are blatantly challenging China's core interests and are actively tying themselves to the chariot of splitting China, which will only lead them down a path of no return. Wu Jianhao emphasized that Japanese militarism has, on multiple occasions in the past, used so-called existential crises as a pretext to launch external aggression. In the end, they suffered a disgraceful defeat. China must warn Japan that today's China is not the China of the past. If Japan dares to intervene militarily in the Taiwan Strait, that is aggression, and China will strike back. Therefore, China urges Japan to reflect on its history, retract its statements, and stop its provocations. Otherwise, all consequences will be Japan's responsibility. On November 13th, the official account of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs posted 6 consecutive posters on the social media platform X, using both Japanese and English to warn Sanai Takashi. The text on the posters included questions such as, is Japan going to repeat the mistakes of militarism? Is it going to once again become an enemy of the Chinese and Asian peoples? Is it attempting to undermine the post-war international order? The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also reiterated that if Japan dares to militarily intervene in the Taiwan Strait situation, China will resolutely strike back. Japan must stop playing with fire on the Taiwan issue. The last poster made it clear those who play with fire will only bring about their own destruction. Besides the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of National Defense also issued a stern warning. The spokesperson for Japan's Ministry of National Defense, Jung Bin, emphasized that the Taiwan issue is China's internal affair and does not tolerate external interference. If Japan fails to learn from history and recklessly takes risks or dares to intervene militarily in the Taiwan Strait, it will inevitably face the iron wall of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. They will pay a heavy price with broken heads and blood flowing. The People's Daily columnist Zhong Sheng was more direct, calling Sanai Takaichi's remarks the first time since Japan's World War II defeat that it has made a military threat against China. The article said Takaichi's comments marked the first time since 1945 that a Japanese leader in an official setting has said an incident in Taiwan would also be an incident for Japan, linking this to collective self-defense rights and, for the first time, expressing intent to intervene militarily in the Taiwan issue. This is the first time a military threat has been issued against China with malicious intent, vile nature, and serious consequences. Both the Chinese government and public are strongly indignant and firmly opposed. The article argues that as a defeated country in World War II, Japan should reflect on its historical crimes through concrete actions. Yet, Sanai Takaichi is trying to tie Taiwan's security interests to Japan's, seeking a pretext for Japan's military intervention in the Taiwan issue, exposing Japan's intention to intervene militarily in the Taiwan Strait. The article emphasizes that these schemes and ambitions, as well as Sanai Takaichi's erroneous remarks regarding Taiwan, are by no means isolated political rhetoric. Behind them lies the agenda and arrogance of certain forces in Japan seeking to break free from the constraints of the pacifist constitution and pursue the status of a military power. Against this backdrop, Sanai Takaichi's attempt to link Taiwan to collective self-defense is an excuse for Japan's military expansion, harboring the dangerous resurgence of militarism. The article urges Japan to immediately correct its provocative actions. The article calls for retracting these wrongful words and actions, stopping malicious rhetoric, and ending dangerous, reckless moves in military security. Otherwise, Japan must bear the consequences. The article stresses the Taiwan issue is at the core of China's interests. Who dares touch it? This is a red line for over 1.4 billion Chinese people and the entire nation, and no one will tolerate it. It also states those who play with fire will get burned, and any force trying to obstruct China's reunification will face firm countermeasures and be defeated. Over the past week, China has responded several times, showing a clear trend of escalation. It pointed out that Sanai Takaichi's statements mark the first time in 80 years Japan has been labelled a military threat to China. Japan's military involvement in the Taiwan Strait is seen as aggression, and a stern warning was issued to Japan. The Zhongsheng commentary in the People's Daily reflects the Chinese people's voice and previews how Chinese leaders may handle Takaichi's remarks diplomatically. The strategy is to respond forcefully, and concrete actions are likely in the future. Japan's high-end manufacturing depends on China's rare earths, so it is normal for China to impose strict export controls on rare earths against a Japan showing signs of reviving militarism. Rare earths are dual use for military and civilian purposes. Tensions in China-Japan relations triggered by Sanai Takaichi's remarks have caused an uproar internationally. Why have Sanai Takaichi's comments provoked such deep anger among the Chinese people? American scholar Jeffrey has pointed out incisively that, aside from the Taiwan Strait issue, which is essentially a matter of China's sovereignty, Sanai Takaichi's remarks have also stirred up memories of the dark period when China was invaded by Japan. On the German media program aired on November 12th, Hall explained that in the 1930s, Japan used the so-called national crisis as a pretext to launch brutal acts of aggression against China, and today there are still those who hold revisionist views of that history. When Sanae Takaichi recently brought up this statement again, it was only natural for the Chinese people to be reminded of the deep wounds caused by the history of Japanese aggression, so the anger expressed by the Chinese side is entirely understandable. Jeffrey is currently a special lecturer at Kanda University of International Studies in Japan, with research focused on Japanese political and social issues, especially how conservative and nationalist movements use the internet to organize offline activities, as well as the image of the Japan Self-Defense Forces in popular culture. Back when Sanae Takaichi first took office, Hall had already said that the tough style of Japan's first female prime minister might be able to consolidate conservative support in the short term, but he was concerned that her extremely conservative stance would further intensify tensions with China and South Korea. As expected, things turned out just as he predicted. Sanae Takaichi quickly stirred up a major storm. In an interview with Der May, Hall first pointed out that Sanae Takaichi's remarks signaled a significant shift in Japan's stance on the Taiwan issue. The Japanese government had always maintained a deliberately ambiguous position on this matter, but her statements made it clear that Japan might get involved in the Taiwan issue. He believed that even though there had been differences between China and Japan over Taiwan in the past, they were still able to maintain good trade relations. But now, Sanae Takaichi, her statement is not something that can be overlooked when it comes to the One China principle, so China will definitely have to respond accordingly. Hall emphasized that the Taiwan issue is of utmost importance to China. Therefore, when the core claim that Taiwan is a part of China is challenged, China will absolutely not back down. He analyzed that the core reason Sanae Takaichi made such a dangerous statement is because she represents the hawkish faction within Japan's Liberal Democratic Party, which has long regarded China as a threat. She holds an extremely hardline stance towards China. While this approach may please her right-wing supporters, it will undoubtedly damage relations between the two countries. When asked whether this dispute is related to historical issues between China and Japan, Hall agreed and further pointed out that Sanae Takaichi has long held revisionist views on historical issues, an attempt to justify and downplay Japan's acts of aggression and its wartime conduct, which is abhorrent to China. He stated that, although Sanae Takaichi has not made similar remarks since taking office, this time when she described the Taiwan issue as a matter of Japan's defense and survival, from China's perspective, it is exactly the same excuse Japan used to justify its invasion of China in the 1930s. He added that this will naturally remind the Chinese people of that extremely dark period in history, and the wounds left by that history are something China has always repeatedly emphasized. The conclusion is that Sanae Takaichi is not a wise politician. Even if she dislikes China, even if Japan wants to take a tougher stance, she should at least learn from Trump, who went out of his way to curry favor, but still, when facing China, after half a year of confrontation, did not dare to cross China's red lines. Maybe she really is living in the 1930s, completely ignoring the present reality. As for China's national strength,